Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the exploration vessel Aurora and watched the stars through the main screen. 300 years had passed since the Great Exile, when the alien hegemony drove humanity from Earth and all, the core worlds. Now humans lived on cold planets at the edge of space where nothing grew easily and every day was a fight to survive. Jake had been born on New Haven Station like most humans of his generation. He had never seen Earth or breathed real air that did not come from machines. His grandfather used to tell stories about blue skies and oceans that stretched beyond the horizon, but Jake thought they were just dreams. The real world was metal, corridors and recycled air, and the constant hum of life support systems. The communication officer turned around with excitement in her voice. "Captain, we are getting a transmission from the Deep Space Monitoring Station. It looks important." Jake nodded, and the main screen changed to show the face of Commander Lisa Rodriguez. She looked tired, but her eyes were bright with something Jake had not seen before. Hope maybe, or fear, he could not tell which. "Jake, you need to get back to New Haven immediately," Lisa said. "We have received intelligence that changes everything. The hegemony is fighting itself. Their empire is breaking apart from the inside." Jake felt his heart beat faster. The hegemony had ruled the galaxy for centuries with their advanced ships and weapons. They were the ones who had driven humanity from their homes and scattered them to the furthest corners of space. If they were truly fighting each other, then maybe there was a chance. "Are you certain about this information?" Jake asked. "Dr. Alan Carter has been studying their communications for months. The three main species that make up the hegemony are at war with each other. They are pulling their fleets back to defend their own worlds. For the first time in 300 years, they are weak." Jake ordered his crew to set course for New Haven Station. During the 2-day journey, he could not stop thinking about what this might mean. His people had spent generations learning to survive on worlds where the hegemony had left them to die. They had become strong in ways their ancestors never imagined. Every human colony had to be self-sufficient because help was never coming. When Aurora docked at New Haven Station, Jake found the command center buzzing with activity. Admiral Susan Taylor was there, along with General Kevin Brooks and dozens of other military leaders from across human space. Dr. Carter stood at a large display showing maps of the galaxy. "The situation is even better than we first thought," Dr. Carter explained. "The hegemony forces are spread thin, trying to fight on multiple fronts. Many of the worlds they took from us are now defended by skeleton crews or completely abandoned." General Brooks stepped forward. "This is our chance. We have been preparing for this day even if we did not know it. Our ships may be old, but they are tough. Our people know how to fight because we have been fighting to survive every day for 3 centuries. Admiral Taylor looked less certain. "We cannot rush into this. The hegemony may be weak now, but they are still dangerous. We need to plan carefully and move slowly." Commander Rodriguez activated another display. "We have advantages they do not expect. Human technology has evolved during our exile. We have had to make everything work longer and better because we could not replace it. Our ships can go places and do things that hegemony vessels cannot." Jake studied the star maps showing the core worlds. Earth was there at the center still, marked as occupied territory. Mars and the asteroid colonies were shown in red, indicating hegemony control. But now there were signs that this control was slipping. "What about the humans who never escaped?" Jake asked. "Our intelligence suggests there are still people living in hiding on some of the lost worlds. If we move to retake them, we need to be ready to help survivors." Dr. Carter nodded. "That is another reason to act. Every day we wait is another day. Those people suffer under alien rule. But if we move too fast, we might make things worse for them." The debate continued for hours. Some wanted immediate action while others called for patience. Jake found himself thinking about his grandfathers. Stories again. Maybe Earth really did have blue skies and oceans. Maybe his children could see them someday. Finally, Commander Rodriguez called for a vote. The decision was close, but the result was clear. Operation Homecoming would begin within the month. Humanity was going home. As the meeting ended, Jake looked out at the stars through the station's main viewport. Somewhere out there was Earth waiting for them to return. The lost worlds would be lost no more. After 300 years of exile, humanity was ready to take back what had always been theirs. The first step would be reconnaissance. They needed to know exactly what they were facing before the real fighting could begin. Jake volunteered Aurora for the first mission back to Earth's solar system. It was time to see if his grandfather's stories were true. Captain Ryan Phillips guided the reconnaissance ship Wanderer through the outer edge of the solar system with his heart pounding in his chest. 2 weeks had passed since he left New Haven Station on the most important mission in 3 centuries. His orders were simple, but terrifying. Get close to Earth and find out what the hegemony had left behind. The ship moved silently through space using advanced stealth technology that humans had developed during their long exile. Every system was designed to avoid detection. The crew of 12 had trained for months, but nothing could prepare them for what they might find at humanity's birthplace. "We are approaching Pluto's orbit," reported Navigation Officer Amy Chen. "No sign of hegemony patrol so far." Ryan nodded but kept his eyes on the sensor displays. The hegemony had controlled this system for 300 years. Even if they were fighting a civil war, they might still have defenses around Earth. One wrong move could end the mission before it really started. As Wanderer moved deeper into the system, the crew began to see signs of the destruction that had driven humanity into exile. Automated defense platforms drifted dead in space. Shipping lanes that once carried millions of people and tons of cargo were empty except for debris. The solar system that had been the heart of human civilization looked like a graveyard. "Captain, I am detecting energy signatures from Mars," called out sensor operator Pete Kim. "It looks like there are still power sources active on the surface." Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. Mars had been humanity's first major colony and home to nearly 50 million people when the hegemony invasion began. If there were still power sources, that meant someone might still be alive down there. "Take us closer but keep us hidden," Ryan ordered. "I want to know what is happening on that planet." As they approached Mars, the sensors revealed something incredible. Parts of the planet showed clear signs of ongoing activity. There were heat signatures that looked like settlements and energy patterns that suggested active technology. Someone was definitely still alive on Mars. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. "It is using an old human frequency, but the encryption is something I have never seen before." The main screen flickered and suddenly showed the face of a woman with dark skin and determined eyes. She wore clothes that looked like they were made from scraps, but her expression was sharp and intelligent. "Unknown vessel. This is Elena Vasquez, speaking for the Free Mars Republic. Identify yourself immediately, or we will consider you hostile." Ryan could barely believe what he was hearing. Humans were still alive on Mars, and they had organized themselves into some kind of government. "This is Captain Ryan Phillips of the human vessel Wanderer. We are from the outer colonies and we have come home." Elena's expression changed from suspicion to amazement. "Outer colonies? You mean there are still free humans out there?" "Millions of us," Ryan replied. "We never stopped hoping we could return someday. Can you tell us what happened here?" Over the next hour, Elena explained the incredible story of Mars' survival. When the hegemony invasion began, some humans had managed to hide in the deep mining tunnels and underground cities that covered Mars. For 3 centuries, they had lived in secret, fighting a guerrilla war against their alien occupiers. The hegemony never bothered to really control Mars, Elena explained. "They took what they wanted from the surface and left us alone as long as we stayed hidden. We have been preparing for the day when humanity would return." Ryan's engineer, Tony Rodriguez, was studying the sensor data from Mars with growing excitement. "Captain, the underground cities are incredible. They have power systems that have been running for hundreds of years. The humans down there have kept our technology working and even improved it. As Wanderer continued its mission, they discovered more amazing facts. Europa still had human settlements living under the ice. The asteroid belt contained hidden bases where humans had survived by mining and trading in secret. Earth itself was badly damaged, but automatic repair systems were slowly healing the planet. The hegemony never expected us to come back, Elena told them during another conversation. They have grown lazy and comfortable. Most of their forces have been pulled away to fight their civil war. This is the best chance we will ever have. Ryan ordered his team to gather as much intelligence as possible. They mapped hegemony positions throughout the solar system and identified which facilities were still active. Dr. Sarah Walsh studied the environmental data from Earth and concluded that the planet could support human life again with some work. The most important discovery came when they reached the ruins of Luna Station near Earth's moon. Hidden deep in the damaged structure, they found signs of human survivors who had maintained the orbital defense networks in secret. If these systems could be reactivated, they would give humanity a huge advantage in any battle for Earth. Captain, we need to get this information back to New Haven immediately, urged Tony Rodriguez. The resistance fighters here are ready to help, but they need to know that support is coming. Ryan agreed, but he also realized they needed to be careful. The hegemony might be weak, but they were still dangerous. If they discovered that humanity was planning to return, they might reinforce their positions or hurt the survivors. As Wanderer prepared to leave the solar system, Ryan took one last look at Earth through the ship's telescopes. The planet was brown and gray where it should have been blue and green, but he could see that life was slowly returning. Clouds moved across the surface, and the polar ice caps were still intact. "Promise me something, Elena," Ryan said during his final communication. "With Mars, keep your people safe until we return. We have waited 300 years to come home, and we will not abandon you now." Elena smiled for the first time since they had met. "We have been waiting too, Captain. Mars will be ready when humanity returns." During the long journey back to New Haven Station, Ryan and his crew compiled everything they had learned. The solar system was not as heavily defended as they had feared. Human survivors were ready to help with any liberation effort. Most importantly, the hegemony's civil war had left them vulnerable in ways they had never been before. When Wanderer finally docked at New Haven Station, Ryan knew that everything was about to change. The reconnaissance mission had proven that Operation Homecoming was not just possible but necessary. Millions of humans were still trapped in the solar system waiting for rescue. The time for hiding was over. Admiral Susan Taylor stood on the bridge of the heavy cruiser Defiance and watched the tactical display with growing confidence. 6 months had passed since Captain Phillips returned from the solar system with news that changed everything. Now, a fleet of 20 human ships was approaching Proxima Colony for the first real test of Operation Homecoming. Proxima had been humanity's first interstellar settlement and home to 12 million people when the hegemony invasion began. Intelligence. Reports suggested that only a small garrison of alien forces remained there now. If the liberation failed here, it would fail everywhere. "All ships report ready for combat," announced Communications Officer Ben Carter. "Colonel Santos confirms that her ground forces are prepared for immediate deployment." Taylor nodded and opened a channel to the entire fleet. "This is Admiral Taylor speaking to all ships. Today we begin the journey home. Today we prove that humanity will never give up and never surrender. Fight well and fight smart. Our people are counting on us." The plan was simple but dangerous. Captain Danny Kim would lead the space battle while Colonel Maria Santos took her. Marines to the surface. They had to move fast before the hegemony could send reinforcements or hurt any human survivors they might find. "Contact ahead," called out sensor operator Julie Brooks. 3 hegemony cruisers in orbit around Proxima 4. They are powering weapons and moving to intercept. Taylor felt her pulse quicken. The enemy ships were larger than anything in the human fleet, but intelligence suggested they would not be expecting serious resistance. The hegemony had controlled this system for so long that they probably thought they were safe. "All ships attack formation Beta," Taylor ordered. "Target the lead cruiser and concentrate fire. Danny, take your squadron." Around their flank, the human ships moved with precision that surprised even Taylor. 300 years of survival on hostile worlds had taught them to work together or die separately. Every crew member knew their job and trusted their shipmates completely. The first exchange of fire lit up space with energy beams and missile trails. The hegemony ships fired powerful weapons, but their aim was poor. They had not fought a real battle in decades, and it showed. The human ships used speed and coordination to avoid most of the incoming fire. "Direct hit on the lead cruiser," reported Weapons Officer Carl Davis. "Their shields are down, and they are losing power." The human advantage became clear quickly. Their ships were smaller and older, but they had been built to last. Every system had backup systems, and every crew member could repair battle damage on the fly. The hegemony vessels were powerful but fragile. "Second enemy ship is breaking off," announced Julie Brooks. "They are trying to escape to hyperspace." "Don't let them get away," Taylor commanded. "If word gets out that we are here, they will send everything they have." Captain Kim's squadron caught the fleeing ship just as it reached the edge of the system. The brief fight ended with the alien vessel drifting dead in space. The third hegemony cruiser surrendered after seeing what happened to its companions. With space cleared, Colonel Santos led her Marines down to the planet's surface. What they found there amazed everyone. Hidden in underground cities and mountain caves were nearly 2 million human survivors. They had lived in secret for 3 centuries, waiting for this day. "The hegemony never bothered to really control the planet," explained Dr. Frank Henderson, who led the largest survivor group. "They took what resources they wanted and ignored us as long as we stayed hidden. We have been preparing for your return." The survivors had done more than just prepare. They had maintained human technology and even improved it in some ways. Their knowledge of hegemony weaknesses would be invaluable for future operations. Dr. Beth Johnson led the archaeological team that studied what the aliens had left behind. The discovery was shocking. The hegemony had strip-mined many areas, but they had also left most human installations intact. Their arrogance made them believe that humanity would never return to reclaim these places. "They treat our colonies like museums," Dr. Johnson reported. "They take what they want, but they preserve the rest as trophies. Most of our infrastructure is still here waiting to be reactivated." The liberation of Proxima sent shockwaves through human space. For the first time in 3 centuries, humans had successfully attacked and defeated hegemony forces. The news spread from colony to colony, igniting hope that had been buried for generations. More importantly, the victory proved that the plan could work. Human ships could fight alien vessels and win. Human soldiers could retake human worlds. The technology and tactics developed during the long exile were effective against their former oppressors. "This is just the beginning," Taylor told the assembled fleet commanders after the battle. "Proxima was lightly defended, but our next targets will be harder. We need to move fast while the hegemony is still distracted by their civil war." Intelligence reports from across the galaxy showed that the alien empire was indeed tearing itself apart. The 3 main species that controlled the hegemony were fighting massive battles over territory and resources. They had no time or energy to worry about a few human colonies on the frontier. Colonel Santos worked with the Proxima survivors to establish a new government and begin rebuilding. The planet would serve as a base for future operations and a symbol that humanity was truly coming home. Captain Kim led scouting missions to nearby systems that had once been human colonies. What his ships found confirmed their hopes. Most worlds were defended by small garrisons that could be overwhelmed by determined human forces. The victory at Proxima also revealed something important about humanity itself. 3 centuries of exile had not weakened them. Instead, it had forged them into something harder and more determined than their ancestors. They had learned to survive anywhere and fight anyone. As the fleet prepared to move on to the next target, Taylor looked at the tactical displays showing human space. Red markers indicated worlds still under alien control, but now there was one green marker showing Proxima as liberated. Soon there would be more. "Set course for the Centauri sector," Taylor ordered. "We have more worlds to free and more people to bring home." The first victory was complete, but the real war was just beginning. Every human in the galaxy now knew that return was possible. The lost worlds were calling their children home, and humanity was ready to answer that call. Word of the victory reached New Haven Station within days. Commander Rodriguez immediately began organizing reinforcements and supplies for the liberation fleet. The dream of homecoming was becoming reality faster than anyone had dared to hope. In the deep underground cities of Proxima, human children who had never seen the sky began to venture outside for the first time. The stars that had seemed so far away for so long were suddenly full of possibility again. Captain Nick Turner felt the deck vibrate under his feet as the attack cruiser Lightning dropped out of hyperspace above Kepler 442b. 3 weeks had passed since the liberation of Proxima, and news of the victory had spread like wildfire through human space. Now Turner commanded a strike force of 8 ships with orders to hit fast and hard before the hegemony could organize a response. "Sensors show 2 alien destroyers in orbit," reported Lieutenant Commander Steve Walsh. "They appear to be conducting routine patrols. No sign they have detected us yet." Turner nodded and studied the tactical display. Kepler 442b had been a major agricultural world before the exile, with over 8 million human inhabitants. Intelligence suggested that hegemony forces had maintained the farming operations using human slave labor. If there were still people alive down there, they needed rescue immediately. "All ships prepare for immediate assault," Turner commanded. "We go in fast and hit them before they can call for help. Remember, our people are counting on us." The human ships accelerated toward their targets using the same tactics that had worked at Proxima: speed and coordination against a complacent enemy who had not fought a real battle in decades. The hegemony destroyers never had a chance. The first destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash of light after taking concentrated fire from 4 human ships. The second tried to flee, but Captain Sandra Miller's squadron intercepted it before it could escape to hyperspace. Within an hour, the orbital space belonged to humanity again. Lieutenant Amy Foster led the first landing party down to the planet surface. What she found there changed everything they thought they knew about the lost worlds. Hidden beneath the farming settlements was a massive underground city that stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. "Captain, you need to see this," Amy reported over the communication system. "There are millions of people down here. They built an entire civilization underground, and the hegemony never knew about it. The tunnel folk, as they called themselves, had lived in secret since the original invasion 3 centuries ago. They had maintained human technology and culture while pretending to be simple farmers on the surface. Their knowledge of hegemony operations was incredible. We know every ship that comes and goes," explained Dr. Patricia Green, who served as the underground city's leader. "We know their patrol schedules and communication codes. We have been preparing for this day since our grandparents first went into hiding." The discovery at Kepler 442b proved that human resistance had been much more widespread than anyone realized. On world after world, small groups had survived in hiding, waiting for the day when humanity would return to reclaim what was theirs. Meanwhile, the hegemony's civil war was becoming more intense every day. Intelligence reports showed massive fleet battles between the 3 main alien species as they fought for control of their crumbling empire. Each faction was pulling forces back to defend their own territory. Turner used this confusion to launch a series of lightning strikes across the Centauri sector. His ships hit 6 more worlds in rapid succession, freeing hundreds of thousands of human survivors and capturing valuable hegemony technology. Each victory made the next one easier. The Bao liberation of New Shanghai proved to be the most important battle of this phase. The planet had been a major industrial center with massive shipyards and manufacturing facilities. Commander Eric Davis led the assault with 12 ships against a heavily defended system. "They have 4 battlecruisers and multiple defense platforms," reported Davis during the planning meeting. "This will not be as easy as our previous targets." Turner agreed, but he also knew they could not afford to wait. New Shanghai's industrial capacity would be crucial for building the fleet they needed to retake Earth itself. The risk was worth it if they could capture those facilities intact. The battle for New Shanghai lasted 18 hours and cost the human fleet 3 ships. But the victory was total. The hegemony garrison surrendered after their orbital defenses were destroyed and their fleet was defeated. More importantly, the shipyards were captured with minimal damage. What they found in the New Shanghai shipyards shocked everyone. The hegemony had been using human designs and human workers to build their ships. Thousands of human engineers and technicians had been forced to work as slaves maintaining alien vessels. Now they were free and eager to help their liberators. "We know every weakness in their ship designs," explained Chief Engineer Robert Kim. "We built them so we know how to destroy them. Give us a few weeks and we can have these yards producing human ships again." The psychological impact of the New Shanghai victory was enormous. Hegemony forces throughout the sector began to withdraw or surrender without fighting. Word spread that humans were not just raiding isolated worlds, but were capable of taking and holding major systems. Captain Turner's forces continued their advance toward the core worlds. Each victory brought more human survivors out of hiding and added captured technology to their growing arsenal. The momentum was building toward something that had seemed impossible just months before. The hegemony's response was chaotic and ineffective. Their 3 factions could not agree on how to deal with the human uprising. Each group was more concerned with fighting the other aliens than with stopping humanity's advance. This division gave Turner's forces the time they needed to consolidate their gains. On Tau Ceti, the humans discovered an entire planet where the surface population had pretended to accept alien rule while secretly supporting underground resistance movements. When Turner's ships arrived, the planet rose up in rebellion, trapping the hegemony garrison between space forces and ground insurgents. The liberation of Ross 128 revealed another crucial fact. The hegemony had never really understood human technology, or human psychology. They had conquered through superior numbers and firepower, but they had never learned why humans fought so hard or how human society actually worked. "They think we are just another species to be dominated," explained Dr. Carol Martinez, who had spent decades studying alien psychology. "They do not understand that humans become more dangerous when they are threatened, not less dangerous." As Turner's fleet prepared for the next phase of operations, they received word that Admiral Taylor was planning the assault on Luna Station itself. The gateway to Earth was within reach, but it would require everything humanity had learned during their long exile. The scattered victories across the Centauri sector had proven that humans could fight and win against their former oppressors. But taking back Earth would be the ultimate test. The homeworld was heavily defended and held symbolic importance that went beyond its strategic value. Turner looked at the star charts showing their advance toward the core worlds. Green markers now indicated dozens of liberated systems, while red markers showed remaining hegemony positions. The tide was turning, but the hardest battles still lay ahead. In the underground cities of the liberated worlds, human children learned about Earth and the blue skies their ancestors had lost. For the first time in 3 centuries, they dared to dream that someday they might see those skies for themselves. The lost worlds were coming home, and Earth was waiting. General Sharon Martinez stood in the command center of the assault ship Determination and studied the holographic display showing Luna Station with growing concern. 6 months of victories had brought humanity to the edge of the solar system, but now they faced their greatest challenge yet, Luna Station guarded the approach to Earth itself, and taking it would require everything they had learned during their long fight home. Intelligence confirms that the station has been heavily reinforced, reported Colonel Jack Harper. The hegemony has pulled ships from across the sector to defend it. We are looking at 12 battlecruisers and multiple defense platforms. Martinez nodded grimly. The aliens finally understood that humanity posed a real threat to their control of the core worlds. They had stopped fighting each other long enough to organize a proper defense of the solar system. This would not be like the quick victories of the past few months. Admiral Taylor's voice came over the communication system from the flagship Defiance. All commanders report to your stations. We begin the assault in 1 hour. Remember that millions of humans are depending on us to open the road to Earth. The human fleet that approached Luna Station was the largest ever assembled. 40 ships, including vessels from every liberated world and colony. They carried weapons built in the captured shipyards of New Shanghai and crews trained in tactics learned from 3 centuries of survival warfare. Captain Pete Wilson commanded the boarding, force that would have to take the station itself. His Marines had trained for months in zero-gravity combat, but they knew the odds were against them. Luna Station was a fortress designed to control access to Earth, and it would not fall easily. The plan is simple, Wilson told his troops during the final briefing. We punch through their outer defenses and dock with the station. Then we fight our way to the control center and shut down their weapons. Keep moving and watch each other's backs. The battle began when the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's moon orbit. Immediately, the hegemony ships moved to intercept while the defense platforms opened fire with massive energy weapons. Space filled with explosions and debris as the two forces clashed. Admiral Taylor coordinated the space battle from Defiance while trying to create an opening for Wilson's boarding ships. The human vessels used their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the worst of the enemy fire, but they were still outnumbered and outgunned. Breakthrough on the eastern approach, reported Captain Kim from his destroyer squadron. We have a clear run to the station docking bays. Wilson's Marines launched themselves across the gap between ships and station in small assault pods. Half of them were destroyed by defensive fire, but the survivors managed to dock and cut their way inside. What they found waiting for them was a nightmare of corridors filled with automated defenses and alien soldiers. The fighting inside Luna Station was brutal and close quarters. Wilson's Marines had to clear the complex room by room while under constant attack. The aliens had prepared for this moment, and they fought with desperate determination. We are taking heavy casualties, Wilson reported, but we are making progress toward the control center. Give us 30 more minutes. Outside the station, the space battle raged with increasing intensity. 3 human ships had been destroyed, but they had managed to knock out 6 hegemony vessels. The aliens were using tactics that the humans had not seen before, suggesting that their civil war had taught them new lessons about combat. Dr. Rachel Morgan led a technical team that was trying to restore Luna Station's life support systems for the human survivors they expected to find. The discovery of hidden human populations on every liberated world had taught them to always look for people in hiding. I am detecting power signatures in the lower levels, Morgan reported. Someone has been maintaining systems down there for a very long time. It has to be human survivors. The breakthrough came when Wilson's Marines finally reached the station's main computer core. The systems were a mixture of human and alien technology that had been jury-rigged together over the centuries. More importantly, they found evidence that humans had been secretly maintaining parts of the network. Captain, we have human access codes built into the system, called out Technical Sergeant Linda Webb. Someone has been preparing for this day. They left us a way in. Wilson immediately ordered his technical specialists to use the hidden access codes. Within minutes, they had control of the station's defensive systems. The weapons that had been firing on the human fleet suddenly went silent and turned on the hegemony ships instead. The tide of the space battle turned instantly. Caught between the human fleet and the station's own weapons, the alien ships found themselves trapped with no way to escape. One by one, they were destroyed or forced to surrender until Luna Station belonged to humanity again. But the real discovery came when Morgan's team found the hidden human survivors in the lower levels of the station. Nearly 50,000 people had lived in secret for 3 centuries, maintaining Earth's orbital defense networks and waiting for this moment. "We kept the old systems running," explained Chief Engineer Paul Carter, who had emerged as the leader of the hidden population. "We knew that someday our people would come home, and when they did, they would need these defenses. The survivors had done more than just maintain the systems. They had improved them and prepared them for the day when humanity would return. The orbital defense network around Earth was more powerful than it had ever been before the exile, with Luna Station secured. The road to Earth lay open, but Admiral Taylor knew that the hardest part was still ahead. The planet itself was still under alien control, and liberating it would require a massive assault. The hegemony would fight with everything they had to keep humanity's birthplace. "All ships prepare for the final assault," Taylor ordered. "We have come 300 years and crossed half the galaxy to get here. Earth is waiting for us, and we will not let anything stop us now." Captain Wilson stood in the command center of Luna Station and looked down at the blue and brown sphere that was humanity's homeworld. It looked damaged and scarred, but it was still beautiful. Soon, human feet would walk on that surface again, for the first time in 3 centuries. The battle for Luna Station had cost the human fleet 8 ships and nearly 1,000 lives. But it had also proven that humanity could take and hold the most important strategic position in the solar system. The momentum that had carried them from the outer rim to the core worlds would carry them home to Earth itself. In the hidden tunnels and underground cities of a dozen liberated worlds, human children looked up at the stars and dreamed of the blue skies their ancestors had lost. The dream was almost real now. Earth was calling its children home, and nothing would stop them from answering that call. The lost worlds were lost no more, and the greatest prize of all was within reach. Tomorrow, the real homecoming would begin. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity and watched Earth grow larger on the main screen as the greatest human fleet in history approached humanity's birthplace. 2 days had passed since the victory at Luna Station, and now 60 ships carrying over 200,000 people were coming home after 3 centuries of exile. The planet looked different from the pictures in the old databases. Brown and gray continents showed where green forests and grasslands should have been. The oceans were still blue, but they seemed smaller somehow. Yet it was still Earth, and it was still home. "Orbital scans show minimal hegemony presence," reported Captain Lisa Park from the sensor station. "Most of their ships have withdrawn to defend their own homeworlds. We are detecting scattered garrisons on the surface, but nothing that suggests major resistance." Morrison felt relief flow through him. The intelligence had been correct. The hegemony's civil war had forced them to abandon their hold on Earth to fight more pressing battles elsewhere. The planet that had once been the center of their empire was now just another conquered world that they could not afford to defend. "All ships assume planetary assault formation," Morrison ordered. "Colonel Santos, prepare your ground forces for immediate deployment. This is the moment we have all been waiting for." The landing began at dawn over what had once been North America. Hundreds of assault shuttles carried Marines and equipment down to the surface, while orbital fire support cleared any remaining alien positions. The resistance was scattered and ineffective. Most hegemony forces surrendered immediately when they realized the size of the human fleet. Colonel Maria Santos led the first landing party to touch down in the ruins of what had been New York City. The sight that greeted them was both heartbreaking and inspiring. Massive skyscrapers lay in ruins covered by 3 centuries of plant growth. But life was returning to the city. Trees grew in the streets and birds nested in the broken windows. "The automated restoration systems are working," reported Dr. Frank Henderson as his team studied the environmental data. The planet has been slowly healing itself while we were gone. The air is breathable and the water is clean. Earth wants us to come home. The real surprise came when Santos's teams began exploring the underground areas beneath the ruined cities. Hidden in subway tunnels and basement complexes, they found evidence of human habitation, not just recent activity, but signs that people had been living here continuously since the original exile. "We found them," Santos reported with excitement in her voice. "There are people down here, thousands of them. They never left Earth." The underground humans had survived by staying hidden and adapting to the changed conditions on the surface. They had maintained some technology and kept alive the memory of what Earth had been like before the invasion. Their leader was an elderly woman named Dr. Catherine Mills, who claimed to be descended from the original resistance fighters. "We knew you would come back someday," Dr. Mills told Santos as they met in a hidden chamber beneath Manhattan. "Our grandparents made us promise to keep the flame alive until humanity returned. We have been waiting for you." As more landing parties spread across the planet, they discovered that the underground communities existed everywhere. Australia had hidden cities in the outback. Europe had tunnel networks that stretched across the continent. Asia had mountain strongholds where humans had lived in secret for centuries. The surface of Earth told a different story. The hegemony had strip-mined many areas and abandoned others to decay. But the automated systems that humanity had built before the exile were still working. Atmospheric processors were slowly cleaning the air. Ocean purifiers were removing toxins from the water. The planet was healing itself. "It will take decades to fully restore Earth," Dr. Henderson reported to Morrison. "But the foundation is there. The planet remembers what it used to be and it wants to return to that state. We just need to help it along." The symbolic moment came when Morrison himself stepped onto Earth's surface for the first time. He had been born on New Haven Station, like most humans of his generation, and had never breathed natural air or felt real sunlight on his face. The experience was overwhelming. Standing in Central Park where grass was growing wild among the ruins, Morrison planted a flag that bore the symbol of united humanity. It was a simple ceremony, but it marked the end of 3 centuries of exile and the beginning of a new chapter in human history. "This is Admiral Morrison speaking to all human colonies and settlements," he said into a recorder that would broadcast his words across the galaxy. "Earth has been liberated. The home world is free and waiting for its children to return. The lost worlds are lost no more." The news spread through human space faster than the fastest ships could carry it. On dozens of liberated worlds and scattered colonies, people celebrated in the streets. Children who had never seen a natural sky looked up at the stars and dreamed of blue skies and green forests. But Morrison knew that the real work was just beginning. The hegemony was still fighting its civil war and posed a potential threat. Earth needed massive reconstruction efforts. The scattered human colonies needed to be organized into a unified government that could defend their new gains. The answer came from an unexpected source. The underground survivors had spent 3 centuries developing a plan for exactly this situation. They had designed a new form of human government that combined the best features of the old Earth nations with lessons learned during the exile. "We call it the Confederation of Free Worlds," explained Dr. Mills as she showed Morrison the detailed plans. "Each world maintains its independence, but we work together for common defense and mutual aid. No one will ever be able to drive us out again." Captain Wilson led teams that were reactivating the orbital defense networks around Earth. The hidden survivors had maintained these systems and even improved them during the long years of occupation. Earth would be protected by the most advanced defensive grid in the galaxy. The hegemony's response to the liberation of Earth was surprisingly weak. Their civil war had reached a critical phase, and none of the 3 factions could spare forces to retake the human homeworld. Some alien leaders even began sending diplomatic messages suggesting they were willing to negotiate. "They are afraid of us now," Admiral Taylor observed during a strategy meeting. For the first time in centuries, they realized that humanity is not going to disappear quietly. We have proven that we can fight and win. As the months passed, Earth continued to heal under human care. The restoration systems were supplemented by new technology developed during the exile. Forests began to grow again in areas that had been barren for centuries. The oceans slowly returned to their natural blue color. The most important change was psychological. Humans throughout the galaxy no longer saw themselves as refugees or exiles. They were citizens of a renewed human civilization that stretched from the outer rim to the core worlds. They had homes and a future that no alien empire could take away. Morrison established his headquarters in the restored city of Geneva, where the old United Nations had once met. The symbolism was intentional. Humanity had learned from its past mistakes and would build something better on the foundation of what had been lost. 5 years after the liberation, Admiral Morrison stood in his office overlooking Lake Geneva and reflected on how much had changed. The lake was blue again and fish swam in its waters. The surrounding mountains were green with new forests. Earth was becoming beautiful again. On his desk sat a small piece of rubble from the old world alongside a flower that had grown in the ruins. They reminded him that sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what you are truly capable of becoming. Humanity had been driven from paradise, but they had returned stronger and wiser than ever before. The lost worlds had called, their children home, and humanity had answered that call with courage, determination, and hope. The galaxy would never be the same.